My name is Elishibah Msengeti Poriot. I am a Principal Programs Officer at KenGen Foundation. My role entails making the programs work in a nutshell. Our programs are in education and environmental sustainability mainly. We carry out CSI work for the company, and my role is to coordinate the programs, the projects, to manage them, to liaise with our beneficiaries, to liaise also with the other stakeholders, for example, the parents for the students that we sponsor, the students themselves. I also do a lot of liaison with our community relations department, because they are the ones who actually connect us to the community on the ground in the different regions. The other thing I do is we do a lot of monitoring, writing reports, assessing what we could do better. And that means that, you're constantly also looking at what are the policies, are we following them? What is our bigger objective? Are we achieving it? And just not just the SIs or the KPIs that we have, but also the bigger impact, because the role of the foundation is to transform lives and livelihoods. So the way I understand my position is that I make that happen. I should make that happen. When I was joining KenGen, I didn't think of it as joining the energy sector. I thought of it more as joining of course, a very respected company, but B, plugging in to make an impact. So beyond, generating power, KenGen is very keen on having positive impact on the communities around our installations, and even beyond that. So what drew me was that when I saw the job description about being a programs officer or principal programs officer, at the time it was senior programs officer, what drew me was exactly that I wanted to be part of an organization that is doing work in education, water and sanitation, environmental sustainability. And I felt also that my skill set and my experience had prepared me precisely for this position. So I would say that's what drew me. I also liked the fact that it has a national outlook. I am big on building the nation, as romantic as that sounds. That's one of the things that actually drives me. And that's why I said when I think of my role, I think of it in terms of the bigger mission and vision of what we are doing, which is to have an impact and to have a sustainable impact. There's what we do in the field and there's what I do in the office. Maybe I can start with the office work is a lot of maybe administrative work. Some of it entails actually procurement work. For example, if we want to grow trees in Enosupuke, it's one of the projects we have, then you need to get a contractor to do that. So you need to give the procurement department or supply chain department what are the needs, what are the specs. And that means I also work very closely with other departments. For example, there are some projects that will require the input of an engineer, so technical input. So a lot of what I do is, I almost want to say I'm almost liaising with different people and putting all the elements together. So in the case of now the procurement, for example, it's what are we looking for? What's our budget? Making sure that those processes get done. In terms of the education, so we receive the fee statements from the students. We receive them from our community relations officers or liaisons, but we also receive directly from parents. So a lot of the parents, for example, will send you the fee statement on WhatsApp. And sometimes maybe it's a photo that's not very clear. So you call the parent and say, is it possible for you to take a better photo or go to a cyber and get it scanned? And why I'm sharing that is there's a lot of communication that goes into managing programs. And also there's a lot of, you need to have a lot of empathy, you know, because everybody you're dealing with, you know, is coming in with their own strengths and challenges. So there's that kind of follow-up. There are times when, so once we've collated the information, we pass it over to finance, and then finance makes the payment. Once the payment is made, it is my job also to ensure that we now communicate with the schools or the parents to say, here's the payment confirmation, we've paid the fees. The practical work, we go to the field a lot. We will go, for example, we have a program called Green Initiative Challenge, the GIC, where it's a school-based tree growing competition. So what does that entail? We start with capacity building. So my job is to coordinate the capacity building and actually to teach what are we doing, what is the purpose of this project, how will we be assessing the winners and all of that. I love that part. I love that because then I'm talking to teachers, we're going to schools, or we are going to some district education office and you have teachers coming from 100 schools. I love that. That's my favorite part of my job. Then we'll go and do an assessment of the trees that were planted. How are they doing? What challenges have they faced? I might not be an expert in tree growing, for example, but we work closely with the environment department. We work closely with our partners like Better Globe Forestry. They have foresters. So that's why I'm saying a lot of what I do in programs is connecting those dots, bringing everybody together so that now this project can succeed. Lastly, I also ensure that we are sticking to the budget. So because the budget holder essentially is the head of the foundation, who's the managing trustee. But as the principal programs officer, one of my roles is also to ensure that do we have budget for these things? Do we need to request for money? And are we also accounting for it? So I will also account for what we've done. So it's essentially project management and program management. How do I balance my career and my personal life? I think the word I'd use is I integrate. So it's a work-life integration as opposed to balance. And I say that because at different points, one thing will be heavier than the other one. And there are a number of things I've learned over the years. I've been working for a number of years. One is I try as hard as possible not to carry work home. And what that means is I need to make use of the workday. I think why sometimes we may end up carrying work home is because during the time that we should be working, we're doing other things. So I've learned that for me to not carry work home, I need to try as much as possible to finish what is supposed to be done as much as possible during the work time. So that when I go home, I can be available for my family. I also, so maybe a year ago, I used to leave work sometimes at 5:30, at 6, 6:30 even, and then it's like it's hard to explain what you're really doing. So I realized I was wasting a lot of time past 5, and it would mean I get home late, and then you're sat in traffic and you're tired. And so one of the tricks is actually to try and leave in good time, and then when I get home, I get into wife mode and mom mode. I need to find my children awake, so I can check their homework, or so I can just be at home. I realized, and I think many people would appreciate this, that one of the things that children really appreciate is just the presence of your parent at home. Like you're there physically. You're not necessarily talking to them, but at least you're there. If you're talking to them, even better. So I try to be there, to be home early. and to be home and to be available. The other thing is, because my work entails traveling for the programs that we do. Thankfully, we don't travel for too long. Most of the times it will be maybe 2-3 days, at most maybe 4 days. And what I've learned is, so the days that I'm not traveling, then I'm very, very present. I make sure that I'm available, I'm there, I'm the one checking homework, I'm signing. The other thing I do is I have created time for my own passions as well. I love public speaking, for example, so I'm a Toastmaster, and so I attend those meetings and I make time for it. So I plan for it, and I try as much as possible also to make sure that it is aligning with my work schedule as well as my family responsibilities. I spend my weekends also pursuing the things I love, which is, like I said, the Toastmasters, public speaking. I do a lot of mentorship and speaking with young people. So I create time for that. And that keeps me fulfilled. And I realized that, when you don't pursue your passions as well, you can end up being a very sad person, a very depressed person, and even a very unhappy person for other people to work with because you're not getting an outlet. So I balance that, and yeah, I would say that's what I do. I try to be available, physical availability at home for my family, for my husband, even for my siblings, my mom, my in-laws, everybody. My proudest achievement in KenGen Foundation. Maybe I'll say 3. One is the being able to successfully hold mentorship programs for the students that we sponsor in high school and university. My first one to organize was in 2022, April of 2022, and it went well. It was good, but because it was the first one, I had organized mentorship programs before in my other workplaces, but every job is unique, right? So because of the lessons that I learned in 2022, the mentorship program in 2023 was amazing, in my own estimation, if I dare say so. And why? Because I knew how to include everybody. We had a great relevant theme that cut across the students in high school and university. We got a very good facilitator. I mean, 2022 facilitator was also very good, equally good. We were able to ask the students what do they want covered in the program. So we were not going in blindly with what we think they want to hear. So it was very successful in that sense. And also, what I loved the most is at the end of that mentorship program, so we usually bring panelists, and I think there's this idea of, you bring external people as panelists, but I was like, these very people we are here with, the staff members who are serving as, chaperones for this program, what if we interviewed some of them? So I had a panel, and I was moderating the panel, and the stories that came out from my colleagues, about their own journeys of education, of growing up, of life, of career, they were very eye-opening, very revealing, and very inspiring for the students, and I dare say even for ourselves as colleagues as we were listening to them. So that I think was a success. Another achievement is maybe not a one-time event, but I feel that every time I do capacity building and then I go back to the school 2 years later and see how the trees have grown, how the children or the students have participated in these tree growing projects, in particular with the GIC. And then you hold we do the top 10 assessment of the top 10 out of the 100. And oh my gosh, and you see how it's a dry place, because this program is run in arid and semi-arid places. It's a dry place, but they've done all these things, all these innovations to make sure that the trees grow. they've done mulching, they've been bringing water in jerry cans from class 1 to class 8 or from 1 to from 4. They've done intercropping. They've fenced the area to prevent, goats from coming in. So for me, when I hear all this, I'm like, when we talk about climate action, it's this big thing. But when you can see it, in action, like it's being done by students by a school, and it has transformed that particular school from a completely dry place to a green, school where you walk in and you can see and you can feel even the difference. That to me is very, very fulfilling. So maybe I'll say those are the two. The third and last one is when, the students, so we have a WhatsApp group for university students. And every time they graduate, they send a photo and a message. And they'll say, thank you so much, KenGen, for sponsoring me. I'm graduating with, Bachelor of Nursing, first class honors from such and such a university. And you saw the picture maybe of that student when they were being selected or recruited. And here they are looking, beautiful or handsome and confident in this graduation gown. There's no feeling like that. I think that to me is the impact of what we're doing. Of course, what would be even more amazing is to hear now, like what they go on to do and the jobs that they get, God willing. But even just that moment for them to have come that far and graduated, and there's a whole family and community behind them, that is not in the picture, but it's behind them, that has been given hope, by this one child who's done, a program, a university program. That gives me great joy. The advice I would give to any young woman who is aspiring to be a professional or is a professional and is wanting to grow in their profession, I would say a number of things. One, excellence. Do the work that you've been given well. Do it well, give it your best. Even the smallest of tasks adds up to the bigger tasks. So don't allow yourself to be mediocre. Carry yourself with the seriousness that you want to be carried with. Keep giving your best and do it excellently. The other thing I would say is keep growing yourself. Keep learning. So you have a degree, you have a master's, you have, a certificate. That's not enough. What the degree and the certificate and all those papers have done is open up your mind. You must keep learning. You must keep learning from other professionals. You must keep learning what is relevant in your field. Thankfully, there are a lot of courses online nowadays. There are a lot of even free courses. And there are a lot of forums that you can be a part of so that you keep learning and you keep growing. Because that's the best you can do for yourself, and not just for your organization, but for yourself. And your career growth and your learning and development is your personal responsibility. It's not the responsibility of HR. It's not the responsibility of your boss. The third thing I would say, and this is something I learned maybe a bit late into my into my career, is that you need to seek mentors. Look for mentors who can guide you, can inspire you, can encourage you, and they don't need to be people that you're sitting down and you're writing notes. You can seek them out even in small meetings. You just say, oh, I wanted to ask you this question. This is the challenge I'm facing. Those mentors, and they don't have to be just in your workplace. They can also be your relatives. They can also be your, where you worship, anywhere. Mentors are important because then you can stand on their shoulders and you also don't have to make the same mistakes that they made. And you learn and grow faster by learning from mentors, and they'll encourage you. And also keep mentoring others as well, because to whom much is given, much is much is expected. The last thing I would advise, Ishman, I don't know how you do this, but you need to build a spirit of resilience, because life will whoop you. You have plans and you give your best, and sometimes it's not, it might not result in what you hoped that it would. So you have to anchor yourself on something that is bigger than just those achievements. It could be your faith, it could be your values, it could be the community that you've created, which is maybe your friends, loved ones, family. Have that, because then when things fall apart, as they sometimes will, then you have something that is anchoring you and something that is pushing you and helping you to rise again and again and again.